What is up, guys? We are back. Sorry for the delay the last couple weeks. I was submitting a 55-page practicum to graduate from grad school, so I apologize, but we are back. And today I have a very special guest. I know you guys love when we bring on people who are running against these rhinos and the Democrats, so it's really important to be electing. Midterms are coming up, guys. We have literally less than 15 days to the 2020 year. Midterms are going to come up quick, and we will hopefully take back the House, take back the Senate, and put a little pressure on Joe Schmo Biden. But before further ado, I have Jameson Ellis here with me today. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. I appreciate you having me on the show, and I just want to say I appreciate you and I appreciate all of your viewers and your listeners.
Thank you. So Jameson Ellis, so tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, where you're from, and why are you running?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I've got a lot of my story that I'll try to condense it down and make it as simple as possible. So I guess we'll just start with why I'm running. So May 25th of 2020 is a significant date for two reasons. One, it was my birthday. It was the day I turned 38. But it was also the day the George Floyd incident happened. And over the next 60 days, we saw over 500 declared riots and over 2,000 law enforcement officers that were injured in the line of duty. And when I looked at our government leaders, they sat on their butts. Some of them actually perpetuated incited even more violence. And I was in the middle of what we call a Blue Crew Live. And as a Christian, I believe that God speaks to me, right? And so I thought I heard the voice of God tell me and show me that what's going on with law enforcement is a symptom of a much deeper issue. So I knew in that moment that I wanted to do something more, thought about running for office, but I'm not a politician. And as you can see, I'm just a regular guy, and you have to forgive me. I'm not dressed up. I'm real. This is just who I am. And So I thought about running for office. I kind of kept it to myself because I don't know what that looks like. I've never done it before. I don't have any experience in politics, and I'm someone that's felt disenfranchised by the very party that I always thought was for me, and turns out that they're just the birds of the same feather with the Democrats, and we'll get to that here in a second. Anyways, a couple weeks goes by, and I have this lady that I don't know from Wichita Falls who reaches out and says, hey, I want to share something with you. Had a dream about you last night. I'm sitting here thinking, oh, good Lord, was it a dream or a nightmare? I hope it was good.
Right.
But said, I had a dream about you last night and I saw you in Congress. And I believe that that's where God is leading you. That's been on your heart and you haven't told anybody about it. And she basically read my mail to me. And that was a little freaky, to be honest with you. But she was right on the money. So I went ahead and talked to my wife about it that night. And I put it in the back of my mind, and I basically prayed, and I said, God, you're going to have to show me what my next step is, because I don't have a clue what I'd be doing. So, I went back, to doing stuff with Bridge the Blue, which is a nonprofit that I help run. And, fast forward earlier this year, my best friend who's worked for campaigns and worked on campaigns reached out to me and told me that Kevin Brady was not running for reelection. And that was Congressional District 8. So in that moment, I felt like I just had this gut feeling that, okay, it's your time. So I told him, I think I'm going to run. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, I'm serious. And I said, but let me go home, pray about it. I'll talk to my wife. Really want to think it over. I want to count the cost, because do I really want to have my life put under a microscope and have bones falling out of my closet, so to speak? And that's just what happens. And so I went home, prayed about it, woke up the next morning, felt like it was the right thing for me to do, was scared crapless that entire day because it's new, right? There's a fear of the unknown.
Right.
I go to bed that night, wake up, and all the fear is gone. And my attitude is, okay, how many butts do we have to kick to get the job done? So we started off in Congressional District 8, built a whole lot of momentum. We started off the first few months, just building a grassroots team. We didn't even really ask for donations or anything. And then we went in September, we did the Montgomery County Republican Party Forum. And that was a huge success. It was actually very overwhelming how many people identified with our message. And then a few weeks later, we learned that the gerrymandering that went on here in Texas after adding 2 new districts actually districted me out of Congressional District 8 and into District 2. Now that actually kind of excited me because I've told everybody that if I'm going to run for office, I'm going to run to represent the district in which I live. And now that I live in 2, I tell people I didn't switch districts. The district switched me. So I'm now running against Dan Crenshaw, which really excited me for a couple of reasons. One, because he has a voting record, but two, and this is what's really important, is because I believe that where we're at right now as a nation, it's not Democrats. And everybody wants to blame Democrats, say it's all their fault, but it's not Democrats. We have 435 voting members of the House. Less than 40 of those have conservative voting records. And if you've ever heard the term keep Texas red, Texas isn't red, it's purple. And I hate to burst anybody's bubble, but Texas is purple. We have 36 districts here in Texas. Less than 13 have true conservative representation. We're not red. And so I fully expect Democrats to act and vote like Democrats. That's never going to change. I have a problem, though, when we have Republicans like Dan Crenshaw who act and vote like Democrats. And that's the very reason why we're in this mess. That's the very reason why 2020 happened the way that it did. It's the very reason why we have a president in office that is literally destroying this country. And so anyways, that was, I tried to keep it short. Sorry, there's a lot to the backstory.
Good. You're good. And, I think you really hit the nail on the head. It's not a Republican Democrat issue. It's people who are going to stand up and defend the Constitution of the United States. That's what it comes down to. You can sit here and say, oh, I'm Republican, but you're calling the kettle black at this point, because if you're going to sit here and say, oh, I'm Republican, but you vote strictly Democrat, we see what you're doing here. Yeah. You're trying to appear to a base. And that's what people year after year, election cycle after election cycle, we reelect these people and expecting something different. I mean, I think Congress has a 21% approval rating. At what point, guys, do you understand the approval rating? When you rate your congressional districts and your people that are in the House, you put them there. It's not like the president. It's like you elect these people from your district. Typically, and Jameson, thank you for running in your district. A lot of people don't. You have people jumping over different districts trying to represent someone. And how do you personally represent people that you don't live in that district? And so Congress has a 21% approval rating, but the approval rating, guys, that's nothing but our own doing. Those people that are in there as representing in our Congress are literally district by district elected by we the people of the United States. Dan Crenshaw, he put out great ads. He put out great campaigns, got you in the fields, hit you right where he like made you feel real patriotic, real American. But guess what? When he shows up to vote and cast that ticket, nothing what he represented in that video is what is put onto that vote. And when he's voting.
And what I actually found funny, Blake, I'm glad that you brought that up, is a couple months ago on his podcast, he literally admits that he's a performance artist. And then here a week and a half ago, he has the audacity here in Houston at an event to stand up and call the Freedom Caucus a bunch of performance artists and grifters. And so I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm just going to be a proud grifter. But if that's not, like you said, the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is. And that's the problem. Right. The problem is that people are paying so close attention to what the right hand's doing, they're missing what the left hand is doing. And that's the issue that we have going on. And those productions that you're talking about is the very thing that people see. And then they look and see, oh, this is a Navy SEAL. And I hate that I even have to do this because it should be a given. But I fully honor and respect Dan Crenshaw's service as a Navy SEAL in our military. That's not in question. What's in question is his service and how he represents Congressional District 2 in D.C. And I can tell you that I feel like he no longer represents my America and Texas first values that I hold as a fifth generation Texan. And so, which I don't know how much I want to say here, but I have it on good authority that he wasn't even born here. So anyways.
Right. So, and guys, we've seen what Hollywood can do and how they can, these cinematics and all these things can prey on your emotions. When you're watching a good feel-good movie, you feel good. That's what they're doing with these campaigns. They're trying to pull at those heartstrings, and they pay millions of dollars to have this done to, strike the American people, but don't fall for it. We've fallen for the Hollywood, what they're trying to promote. Now look at this. We have an opioid epidemic. We have kids who are being trafficked all across this country. You have people getting arrested left and right for child pornography possession. The Florida school board member, he come out and he literally had, or one of the guys who's head of education there, had child pornography. At what point, you guys have to take a step back, and we talk about mainstream media. We talk about what you see, dig deeper and look at what they're actually doing. what are they actually doing for the American people? What are they doing for their district? And what are they doing for you in Washington, D.C.? That's why the 21% approval rating, because you vote for these people because they have campaign promises. And when they get to D.C., they act like cowards. I'm going to say one thing here. Democrats, we might not like their policies. We don't agree with them. But I'm going to tell you something right now. They stick together.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right about that. And one thing I want to touch on that you said about we're the ones allowing them to stay in office. So I fully support term limits. I have made a commitment that I'm only gonna be in Congress for 4 terms, which is 8 years. But here's the reality. Term limits already really exist if you think about it. It's called the voter. If you don't like the job that congressman or congresswoman is doing, you can vote their butts out. So why do we need to mandate something like term limits in order to limit? We're supposed to be a government by the people, of the people, and for the people, but yet the government has to step in and limit the terms? I don't understand that. Literally,
Right. So
we have the power.
Right. For example, Jameson, if you were a great person and you represented the people within your district and they loved having you there and you being a voice for them, if they wanted to vote, I agree with you. It's a weird line. But here's the thing, guys. People say there needs to be term limits because they're Nancy Pelosi. People in her district must really like what she's doing there, or she wouldn't continually get elected the way. And now, granted, I think there are some fishy things that go on with the election systems here in the United States of America. Do I think that every single one is fair, free? Absolutely not. So I can understand people's discrepancies and concerns when they talk about we don't really vote for these people. I get it. But what I'm saying is, and that's why election integrity in the state of Texas, I mean, the DOJ is coming after them hard. What is your stance, Jameson, on election integrity, and how do you feel about it moving forward? And how do we make up for the past? How do we fix what was already broken? If people don't trust the election system, how do you expect people to go and vote for you?
Yeah, this is a great question. So I meet a lot of people that don't even think there's a reason for them to vote anymore until we fix the elections. The problem is that that's exactly what they want. That's exactly what the swamp, the deep state, they don't want to accumulate the data, because you can hide the data, but the data is there. And data is what we actually do have, what can be found in a forensic audit. And that's also why I've been calling an audit for the state of Texas, not just the state of Texas, but also nationwide. But I've been calling for a forensic audit since June, officially, of this year. And so we need to audit every single county in Texas, and we need to audit every single state in the union, because we need to know exactly just how bad the issues are. And if this is going on YouTube, there's just certain things I don't want to say, but
Right.
but the other thing is how do we fix it, right? So we have to learn from our past. Otherwise, the future is going to look like a reflection of the past. And so people always want to say, well, paper ballots. Problem with paper ballots, and yes, it's old school, it's a lot of work, but the problem with paper ballots is it can still be forged. It can still you can still cheat. And so as a really old millennial that lives on technology, I'm a huge believer in blockchain technology. And so I think that even though this is a state issue, right, the federal, each state handles their own elections, but I want to advocate for a blockchain voting system because the blockchain is more secure, can't be duplicated, can't be forged, and it's 100% private and transparent and auditable. And so if we build a voting system on the blockchain, nothing really changes for the voter. The voter still goes and votes the way that they want to vote, but then it spits out a ticket that shows them exactly how they voted for their own records. And so, you pretty much, you can pretty much get the election integrity issues, if you will, down to probably less than 1%. And so I plan on advocating very strongly for blockchain voting systems.
And right, so for everyone who's tuning in and doesn't know what blockchain voting systems are, I encourage you to go research and don't knock it until you do your research on what they actually are. As you guys all know, paper mail-in ballots, it can still occur whether the person's actually voting or not voting. So there's ways to mitigate this and there's ways to do this. But I want to pick your brain really quick since we're on the topic of voting. What do you think about the 600,000 illegal immigrants that are allowed to vote in the New York City election?
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
How do you have a state? How do you have a sovereign state when people who don't even belong in regards to they are illegal? They're not even citizens voting. That's like me going to China and vacationing, whatever. I'm there. They're having an election that day. I'm going to be like, hey, I'm going to go vote. I'm not a resident here, but I'm going to go vote. And me making a decision on how these people are going to live.
Yeah, so I think we have to look at the root of the problem as to how do they get here to begin with. The reality is that Texas is really the focal point of all of the illegal aliens that are crossing over the border. And so we need to fix that problem. We need to finish the wall. I believe we need to do that. We need to end catch and release, because right now someone gets caught, they don't have any ID. So I was at the border about 3 months ago, and I witnessed how this happens. So they come across the border, they have zero ID. They actually dump their ID in Mexico. And you can have a black guy that speaks French, but he says he's Mexican and he's marked as Mexican. And so they're not vetted. We don't know who they are. And then they're just released in the general population. And then you have children that are actually being recycled for several reasons. But the two biggest ones are human trafficking, as well as just bringing more people over. But we need to fix that problem. We need to end catch and release. We also need to end all of the benefits that we're giving. They have access to benefits that neither you nor I have. And going back to catch and release really quick, I think that if we stop incentivizing people to come over here, and then whenever we do catch somebody, we immediately, no more chances. They don't even get a warning. We immediately revoke their eligibility to ever apply for citizenship in the United States. I think that if we can do some of these things. Oh, one last thing is we need to make sure that we vote a governor to Texas. It's going to be a conservative 100% of the time, and not only whenever it's an election cycle. And we need to unhandcuff our law enforcement along the border and allow them to do their jobs. Sorry, I can talk all day about the issues on the border, but that's the root of the problem. If we can fix the root of the problem, and I will say this too, it's not just the state of Texas. So the federal government, and I believe in a very limited federal government. Their jurisdiction is two things and two things only. One is to protect our unalienable, God-given, not government-given, God-given liberties. The second thing is to secure our borders, to protect us from foreign invasion. That's their only jurisdiction. And so if we can limit them to that, then that'll alleviate a lot of those problems. But if we don't alleviate the root problem and we don't fix that, then it doesn't matter what temporary problems are that we can try to fix in New York or California or any of these other states. It's not going to fix. It's not going to be a permanent solution.
Right. And, it all ties into each other. And I don't think you correlated it perfectly. There wouldn't be 600,000 illegal immigrants in the city of New York if they didn't live there, if they didn't get there. I think people just look at it as if we don't like immigration, or we don't want people to come here to the land of opportunity and seek out the American dream. It's not that. It's that we want people to come here and adopt our culture. You can bring your culture. Of course, we're a melting pot. We have all different things. I mean, go down the road and see how many different food venues, different things. There's a whole bunch of things you can incorporate your culture into the American culture. And that culture is cultivating, work hard and you can achieve greatness. And if you set your mind to it, that American dream is achievable. No matter
I just want to say really quick, because what you're talking about there. So I think this is important. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
But immigration without assimilation leads to an invasion. Correct. And that's literally what's happening right now.
Correct.
And it's dividing. Like, if we don't fix this soon, we're no longer going to be the United States of America. We're going to be the divided states of America, if you can even call it America at that point. So I just wanted to make sure that I hit on that.
So what I feel like is, if you don't have a border, like a border is what makes a country, whether it be an actual wall or not a wall, there is land border of a country. And as soon as that is away, what makes a country? At that point, is just land. I mean, what's to set the difference between Mexico and Canada? There is no difference. So my question to these people, if you do not protect your borders and you do not protect it, what are you defending? Because you're no longer defending America at this point. You're defending your house, or you're defending what are you defending? Your right to go to McDonald's? Like, I'm really confused on if we do not secure our border and protect guys. There are countries where you literally would be shot if you try to cross the border. Like, this is, and we're offering, and there's even talks of $450,000 for people who are separated from their kids who came here. That's like me breaking into a store stealing gems and me cutting my foot on the way out and them separating me from the gems and then being like, well, since you cut your foot and you were separated from your gems, I'm going to pay you. Which in some places, like if someone breaks in your house and gets hurt, you can't get sued by the person who breaks in. Weird, real weird. Like, but I mean, that does happen. I don't understand it, but we have to secure, if they're going to allow these illegal immigrants to vote, we will never win an election ever again, ever, period, point blank. It doesn't matter how much you campaign, doesn't matter how much it doesn't matter. Because if people who are, I mean, who's to say, define illegal immigrant, like, what if 50,000 people come over randomly? They found 50,000 people they're undocumented. So how do you trace it? How do you know if they're real? And then in the vote tallies at the end of the night, 4:00 in the morning, every single time it's going to happen. Oh, we found 500,000 illegal immigrant votes.
What's funny, just kind of go backwards a little bit. You were talking about, if we don't have a border, then we don't have a country. When I hear people talk about how building the wall is racist, most of those people, I venture to say most of those people live in a home with walls. And my question is, do you lock your doors at night? Why? The boundaries of your home separate the inside from the outside. It protects you from the perils that are outside of your home. And the boundaries of your yard also let you know that, hey, that's my neighbor's yard. This is my yard. I need to respect his side. I'm not going to let my dog go over there and poop on his grass. I know that I'm going to mow here and not go over because it might upset my neighbor. I want to respect them. I don't want trash to blow, So borders, walls, boundaries, we use them every single day, but yet these same people that gotta have my safe space, my personal space, are the very ones that are claiming that building the wall is racist.
Even though they have an imaginary boundary that they want to be in.
It is the ultimate hypocrisy.
So my challenge to all the Democrats that are, that tune in and watch this and like to troll, unlock all your doors in your house. Also unlock all your cars, and preferably just give me your social security number.
And since you're against the Second Amendment, use harsh language instead of a firearm and see how far it gets you.
I want to give you a little story here, and then we'll take some questions from people in here. But I was debating a girl, on the world of TikTok, because, I am a millennial, or a Gen Z, whatever I am. I'm something that I don't know. But I was arguing with this girl live, and I was like, well, would you ever own a gun? She said, well, no, because if someone came into my house, I would just run. And I was like, oh, okay. So you mean to tell me that if we had two scenarios where I was in my house and you were in your house and two armed robbers came into our home, one came at me and I shot the individual, and the other person was coming in and was threatening your life, you would feel more safe without a gun than with a gun? She said yes. And I don't know how to fix that. Like, how do you fix that? Because that is a genuine mentality. I had a person that I knew who bought a home and found a gun in the garage and screamed and called the police because a gun was in her garage because she was scared it was going to go off and kill her. People have people have this irrational actual fear that an unoccupied gun is going to just start going boom, 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 and shooting people. Like, they really genuinely have, like, I've encountered it, and people actually, but I mean, I'm not surprised because, I mean, look at the condition of this country. Like, there's a reason that there's instructions on shampoo bottles, like, for people like this. So, but like, how do you fix that issue?
So I believe that. Well, so let me just ask you a question. I am going somewhere with this. Can you name for me one thing that the government's ever touched they've made better?
That they've made better.
Made better.
That they claim they made better or actually made better?
Actually made better.
Everything that the government touches, I feel like, goes to crap.
Yeah, exactly. Government destroys everything it touches. So now that the government, for years, the government's been involved in our education systems, and we no longer have an education system, we have an indoctrination system. So we have these kids that go to school, while, by the way, and this is all connected, right? So, which, by the way, uh, the word muse means to think. When you put an A in front of the word muse, it becomes amuse, and which is the exact opposite, to think. And so we now live in a culture and we live in a society where we want to be amused. We value leisure over liberty. We value fun over freedom. So you've got all of that going on with television, which they don't really do television anymore. It's streaming services, but television literally means to tell a vision. Whose vision is it? And we're sitting there and we are unconsciously just letting this programming in, while simultaneously our kids are going to school and being indoctrinated on things like CRT and the LGBTQ agenda and all of that. And then we wonder why over decades we have kids, or we have teens, or we have young people, or maybe young adults that just see a gun and are just afraid it's going to go off. I believe that miseducation, uneducation, it's not even a term, but I believe that is a form of tyranny. And we can either educate ourselves and educate each other, and we can resist, or we're going to cease to exist. And we have got to make up our minds on what we're going to do. And we have to also get to this place where we're not so concerned with being politically correct, but we'll have the courage to start being patriotically correct, so that we can take our country back.
Right. So, Jameson, I have breaking news right now out of Texas. Governor Greg Abbott announces construction of Texas-Mexico border wall will begin soon. Thoughts on that? It just is breaking now. They're talking about it. What do you think on that? And I'll take some questions from people in the comments. So if you guys have any questions, drop them now as he's answering this question.
My question is, why didn't he do it sooner?
And
why did it take being challenged by Don Huffines, Chad Prather, and Lieutenant Colonel Alan West for him to finally get off his butt and do it? And that chain link fence, because I've seen pictures of how they're preparing that chain link fence, that is nothing compared to the wall that Trump wanted to build, or that started to build. My question is, why aren't we finishing that wall? So I think it's too late. I think it's too late for Abbott. And just so that everybody knows, those of you who don't live in Texas, Texit is a really big hot topic here in Texas. And the problem is that we have a swamp in Austin. And so it doesn't matter if Texas were to secede or not, we have a swamp, and we've got to fix the corruption. And I, for one, believe that a convention of states is what we need. As a Texan, I was raised that you don't just tuck tail and run and take your ball and go home when times get tough. You actually stand up and fight. And that's what I'm going to do for Congressional District 2. That's what I'm going to do for Texas. And that's what I'm going to do for every single American from coast to coast. And so yeah. And that's why our slogan, my campaign slogan, is to restore liberty, refund the police, make America America again. And now that we're running against Dan Crenshaw, it's to fire DC from DC.
It's just, I just want a reset button. Like, this is not, I mean, even just I was born in the 90s, just growing up from what you were just conditioned, not like conditioned, but I was always taught and surrounded by people who just genuinely loved this country. You didn't worry about these things because it was just so passive that everyone was on the same page. Well, at least that's what I perceived through my innocent little eyes of being a 10-year-old. But there wasn't the talks of the things that we're experiencing right now. And the fact that I can hear Americans who were born here, born and raised, say that they hate this country and we're colonizers. And it worries me, because that is not the reality I grew up in. And I get people's circumstances are obviously different than mine. Some of us are more blessed than others. I've seen people who have come from nothing that I had way less than me, who have way more than me now. Did they work harder? No. Sometimes life just works for people in a certain way. Did they work hard? Yes. But sometimes pieces fall in a certain way, and my path is not their path. And, there's some people who had it all who end up with nothing. So every story is different. So it's really not to say, like, based off of socioeconomics of what we turn into or what we become. But the America that I see today is not, I mean, I could go down and count maybe on my hands how many American flags are flying outside these homes.
So, one of the things I want to say to that is the problem with our generation is that we ain't really been through nothing. There's really been no struggle. Oh, sure, 9/11.
COVID, the worst like ever.
But the truth is that diamonds are formed under great pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And we're walking around like big lumps of coal, thinking that we're diamonds, but we haven't been through anything. We haven't been pressed. We haven't been under any real pressure. And then, you have things like 9/11 that happens. And, we say every year, we say, never forget, never forget, never forget. And here we are. It is, 20 years later. And my question is, have we forgotten? And then we see something like 2020, where, supposedly a guy that can't put two sentences together is the most popular president in history. And even now, it feels like people are forgetting what happened in 2020. And that's sad.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't forget. We have to remember exactly what happened, and we have to start fighting back. And because at some point we have to draw a line in the sand, and at what point is that for each and every person? You ask some, it's whenever they can no longer own property. You ask others, it's whenever they federalize the police and our local law enforcement went by the wayside. For others, it's going to take being in the back of a truck, being hauled off to some kind of camp before they step up and say, man, I think we might need to do something. Because for some people, the masks weren't enough. And then, these weren't enough. And so when are we going to stand up and say enough is enough and draw that line in the sand? I made my decision. So.
Right. Now's the time. And now is the time for every American out there, regardless of, but that's what I don't understand about this. You can be pro-vaccine like this in regards to the mandate. You can be pro-vaccine, but not pro-mandate. Like, it's not hard. You can encourage and educate. Like, I get it. But at the same time, like you said, at what point? Is it going to take the point where they're coming door to door to confiscate guns? Are you going to let it get to that point? My question. Are you, like, why are we going to get to that point? That's when blood will really be shed. And I don't think people understand that. That's when people, because you go ahead, I know you're from Texas, but you go down to Kentucky or West Virginia and try to take people's guns from in the mountains.
Oh, believe me, we got a lot of places here in Texas like that as well.
But there's just like there's people like that all over. There's people who genuinely believe and love the Second Amendment right, and everyday citizens love to be able to defend their family, their livelihoods, their yards, and make sure they're safe. And that's what, guys, every single one of us wants to feel safe in our home. And right now, a lot of us feel uneasy in our home. We feel uneasy of the boundaries that are being set. We're uneasy because of what the government is doing. What do you do when you're uneasy in your actual physical home? You fix what's making you uneasy. And when they come knocking on your door, you're ready and prepared. At this point, we're just sitting on the couch watching TV, hoping that uneasy feeling is just going to go away. Well, I'm here to tell you, and I'm sure Jameson's telling you too, that uneasy feeling isn't going to go away. It's only going to get stronger, and it's only going to get worse because they're going to keep pressing and pressing and pressing until we break. And go ahead.
I was going to say one of the things that gets really aggravating, is being a Christian. I see a lot of people that they just like, well, God is in control. We're just going to trust him. And I'm very upfront with people that I don't believe that God is in control. I believe he's in charge, but I don't believe that he's some puppet master up there pulling strings and making things happen and not making things happen. I believe we have free will. And we have a lot of people and that are evangelicals that are going to stand there with a shovel in their hand and then a solid ground and pray for a hole, instead of recognizing they've got the shovel in their hand, they've been blessed with it, freaking dig the hole, right?
And I've said that too. And Jameson, I think this is where you're going, because I talked to my mom, and me being a Christian as well, talking to my mom is like, Mom, the Christian and the church has been so sleepy. Mm-hmm. Everyone starts saying, I'm sick of hearing, as much as I want the good Lord to come back as anybody else, I'm sick of hearing Christians say, I hope the Lord comes back. Are you hoping the Lord comes back because it's the easy way out of what this world is?
Bingo.
Is that the easy way? Is that how you comfort yourself, knowing that I don't have to do anything because I know God's in control? So if I just pray about it, God never said pray about it and things will be fixed. God said go and be my disciple to the world and make change. That's what he
Come
said.
on.
Do. He said do, not pray about it. Sit at home and hopefully, there's some rain in the desert. He said go out and be a disciple to the world. And what are you doing if you're just hoping that he comes back so you don't have to do what he called you to do?
Come on.
At the end of the day, I talked to my mom about this religiously every single week. I was like, Mom, what is the church doing? 70% of Americans are Christian. What is the church Christian? Like neo-Christianism, whatever is going on. I'm not really sure. But I mean, you have a majority of Christian nation. And what is the church doing? Having huge mass celebrations with 100,000 seating churches where we gather all this money. But what are they doing in the world? It's my question. What are we doing for the world?
The problem is that, we're teaching our kids not to talk about politics and religion, and it's led to a huge misunderstanding of both. And what we need to be teaching our kids is how they can have civil discourse and remain respectful. And the Bible actually talks about this. There's iron sharpening iron. And we don't grow, and this goes back to that pressure, we don't grow unless there's friction. If you think about the two things that make those locomotives from back in the day, what makes them go, it's two things. It's friction and pressure. And friction, with friction and pressure comes movement. But you go try to make a decision that you want to play football and you want to gain some strength, and then do nothing and see how much strength you actually gain. No, it takes having to go to the gym or getting weights in your home, doing push-ups. And what are you doing whenever you're lifting those weights? There's pressure, and you're pushing up the pressure because that's how growth happens. And so we're basically teaching our kids that don't live a pressureless life. I don't want you to feel pressured. I want you to be comfortable. We want to create this safe space. And then they're what I like to call, you have grown men that are in their 30s living at home playing video games in their parents' basement or whatever. I call it adult-lessons, because they've never truly learned what it's like to be a man and actually leave their father and mother and find a wife. So anyway, I don't mean to go off on a tangent. There's a lot of cultural things going on that is a direct result of government involvement in every area of our life.
Right. And I think, to try to continue off that, I feel like personally with me, when things were easy, I didn't grow much. When things went my way, I didn't learn anything really from it besides oh, cool, this is going my way. The biggest things that I've learned about myself in this journey of life was when things I didn't know what was going to happen. It was out of my control, but what I could control is how I responded. And that makes you grow as a person more than anything. And in this moment, that's what our backs are against the wall. How many times have our backs been against the wall, y'all? This isn't the first time. It's not going to be the last time. But what are you going to do? Because we all have a calling. We all have something we were put on this earth to do. And not just, going through the motions, 9 to 5. Monday, there is something more bigger than that. There's a bigger picture. You have a purpose. We all have a purpose. And we're all meshing together. But at some point, when is the adversity? When are we going to rise up to the occasion of something is wrong and something must be done?
You bring up a great point. I just want to point this out. Most people live their lives. They go to work, they come home, and they retire a year before they die. The system has been set up that way, right? So whenever we first started out, we're a free market economy, a capitalist society, and then all of a sudden, it becomes focused on the little worker ants, and whenever you stop teaching people how to be self-sufficient, you stop teaching people how to that they can actually do and have more in life. Whenever you stop teaching them these principles of entrepreneurship, then what happens? Well, all of a sudden you've got a nation full of workers with very little competition, and then the federal government steps in and gives the companies that don't need it, they give them subsidies. That's what we call corporate welfare. But literally we have generations full of people that think that the life to live, this life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is all about going and finding a good job with benefits. And when you do that, when you put your future in somebody else's hands, you are literally, and forgive me for saying it this way, but you are literally enslaved to your boss. You are literally enslaved to that company, because all of a sudden you have these mandates come up, and first of all, I don't date men, so I don't do mandates. But no, in all seriousness, our medical freedom is being stripped from us. And whenever you make the decision, I'm not going to do that because that's my decision, and that mandate, if you will, is unconstitutional, which, by the way, I know the federal mandates have been rejected for now, but you still have companies out there that are choosing to enforce it of their own volition.
Kroger.
And so
boycott Kroger. Guys, do not shop there. I mean, don't shop it if you can, by all means. I mean, at this point, where are you going to shop? Like, I mean, you can't shop at Walmart. You can't shop at Target. You can't. I mean, they're all. They're all woke.
But what if instead we got the government out of our school systems and we had real education, and it was easier for parents to homeschool their kids or to choose what school that their kids went to, because I know for me, my kids, if and when I have them, I want to teach them about business ownership and about entrepreneurship and about what it's like to build something that's yours. And in order to do that, you have to serve the marketplace. If you're not serving the marketplace and solving a problem, you're going to fail as a business.
Right.
And so the only way to build a true, sustainable, successful business is to serve. And that's what we need to be teaching, instead of teaching that, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And every single rich person that is a business owner that started off humble beginnings, they served the marketplace to get where they are today. And either A, they lost their way, which I don't believe that's the case, because you look at somebody like Elon Musk, and he's still a good dude.
Right.
But I don't believe that money changes you. I believe money exposes you, and it amplifies who you already were. If you're broke and selfish, then when you get money, you're just going to be rich and selfish. But if you're broke and you're selfless, then whenever you have money, you're going to give more. So, and that's the thing that we need to be teaching about capitalism and the free market. So anyways.
Well, Jameson, it has been a pleasure. I feel like we could just sit here and chat all day. It's just, I was like, yeah, it's usually around 15, 20 minutes. Here we are going on 43. It's fine. I mean, it is what it is when conversations rolling and conversations going. Well, Jameson, my question to you is, where can people find you? How do they connect? And I know there's a lot of people that follow PTP. They're in Texas, would love to get involved. I know a lot of people were involved with Myra when we had her on the show. But how do they get involved? How do they, you said grassroots, and that's what we're trying to do. So strength in numbers is kind of like our hashtag here. And, that's the most important thing. And so the more doors we can knock on, the more people we can get engaged with. How do they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is jamesonellis.com. On the website, it's basically a hub. You can join our grassroots team. And then you can also donate to the campaign, which is really important. We're now ramping up donations because we're going against $4.6 million of swamp money. The other places that you can find, and you can also read about my platform there as well. The other places where I'm active, I'm very active on Facebook. I'm very active on Instagram. I have Telegram. I have Getter. I'm on YouTube. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And so I'm pretty much on all the social medias. I'm most active on Facebook for now. And there's a lot of people that are like, well, Facebook, blah, blah, blah. Well, look, Facebook is my mission field, right? Why am I going to go and spend all of my time in an echo chamber where I'm not going to be challenged on anything? The people that I need to reach are on Facebook. And so that's why I spend the majority of my time there on Facebook. But yeah, we would love to have you involved if you're here in the area. We are building up a grassroots team. There have been some things that have happened over this last week that is confirmation that we're on Crenshaw's radar. And I'm gonna say that either he or somebody on his campaign is scared. And if you go to my Facebook, my handle for all social media is at the Jameson Ellis. Go to my Facebook. Yesterday, I posted a video from our relaunch rally on Saturday. We had Bryson Gray, Forgiato Blow. It was an awesome time. And so I posted my speech. And I would encourage you to, if you really want to get to know about who I am, I would encourage you to watch that speech. I'm very transparent about my past. I specifically talk about failure, which is something that I don't believe it defines you. I believe it refines you if you'll let it. But I actually talk about what happened over the last 7 days leading up to that day, including Saturday morning, walking outside of my front porch with a blank white envelope with some, I guess you could call them like unsaid threats. So yeah, fun stuff.
Oh gosh, it's I can't even imagine this. The realm of.
Well, I'll tell you this. So my question that I ask everybody is, why is someone with $4.6 million cash on hand, why are they so scared of a little old grassroots candidate like Jameson Ellis? And the truth is not because they're scared of me. It's because they're scared of you.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I want every person sitting in Washington, D.C. to feel like that every day. I want them to feel like that every day. You think Abbott is doing the things that he's doing now because he felt comfortable? No. He's uncomfortable. That's why he's doing things. We need to make every single... Guys, you should be emailing, calling. If you see something in your district that's not getting done and they're not doing crap about it, I guarantee you if 1,500 emails come in every single day, they're going to do something about it. I promise you. It's not hard to set up. Guys, you send me if you don't send 9 hearts by midnight, someone's going to show up in the back of your closet. How many of those I get every single day? If you can send the chain mail because you're scared someone's going to pop in your closet, I'm sure you can send an email to forward to your congressional, representatives and your senators. I'm just saying. So, Jameson, thank you so much for coming on here, guys. Make sure you guys go to JamesonEllis.com.
That's it.
JamesonEllis.com. Yep, I was just making sure I had it right. If you guys want to donate anything, make sure you guys get connected. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on here tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys next. Is today with Lucas? It might be with Lucas today. I think Lucas might be on later tonight. So make sure you tune in if he is. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys. And I will catch up with you guys on Telegram. So see you later, guys.